Welcome to our cannabis industry news show with myself and Katya from Thought. In today's episode, we're going to give you all the main stories that have taken place for the past few weeks with regards to cannabis. We've got quite a lot to get through.
Yeah, lots as always.
We've got a nice new setup, so what we're going to be talking about will appear as if by magic right behind us. Should we get straight into it?
Let's get straight into it and the wonders of modern day technology.
Yeah. I hate the title of this story so much. Zombie drug xylazine found in cannabis THC vapes in the UK. I hate the fact that the only people that use the word zombie are mainstream media.
And the BBC of like all people as well.
No one goes around doing that. No one's like, oh, have you heard about that zombie drug? The zombie drug. The only way people get that is through the media misreporting things. But this is actually a really interesting story, isn't it? Yeah,
it's very interesting and very concerning. I mean, I feel like it's like case in point as to why we should legalize cannabis, and just demonstrates again why, you know, you can't trust anything that you buy on the illicit market. But yeah, I think it's just a concerning story that's just become extremely sensationalized by the mainstream media. But yeah, I think it's in line with the kind of benzodiazepine and opioid crisis generally in the UK, with xylazine and other sedatives appearing in lots of drugs. So yeah, I feel like it's in the kind of it's in the realm of, you know, case in point as to why we should be looking at changing our drug laws.
There's a really good, I think behind this story, there's a really good piece of research which kind of talks about the need for harm reduction and further drug policy reform, because a lot of people who are morally outraged by drugs will look at a story like that and be like, oh my God, drugs are so dangerous, we need to clamp down on this, that and the other. But thankfully, I think society and the public, once they start to look into these subjects, are becoming more aware that like, oh, okay, that's why people legalise cannabis. That's why the North American reforms have been popular. That's why they're taking steps in Canada. That's why, you know, it's kind of
like this is why we're changing our drug laws. Whereas I think the way that the article's been framed, zombie drug, everyone's like, well, that's why drugs are dangerous.
Yeah.
But like very few people will actually read the full article. And if you read the full article, there's some, like you said, there's some really interesting research that's been done which points to, you know, why we should reform and liberalise drug policies to actually clamp down on things like this.
It's a good drug education piece for younger people in particular around vapes and illegal vapes. And something we've talked about a lot online is we currently have a government at the moment that are just trying to ban everything. They're banning phones today. Phones is a new one. So we've got a prime minister who just promotes his hobbies, cricket, maths, all the things that he gets really excited by, and then just bans everything else that thinks anybody's worried about. And I think Jonathan Haidt, who we admire a lot, you know, we've done lots of reading of Jonathan Haidt, really like Jonathan Haidt. He obviously did a big piece of research recently thinking around the danger of phones, and I think that's had a bit of a knock-on effect with the government then banning phones.
Yeah,
anyway,
and I feel like just because something's dangerous and there should be some nuance and considerations to how, you know, how young people are managed in that situation doesn't mean that we want to, you know, that we need to ban.
Exactly, exactly. It's like we don't like that thing. We don't like that thing. Let's ban it. But thankfully, I think the research base is growing and people's awareness are growing. That when they start to see things like this, it's like, okay, we need to change. We need to change.
Yeah, like what we're doing isn't working, but maybe we don't just pivot and, you know, go down further prohibitionist routes.
But there is a good message to young people and adults there of like, just be careful about vapes that are bought on the illicit market. You don't know what's in them. There's a big risk.
And I would also say I think there's a lot of people are, you know, as cannabis is becoming more liberalised and, you know, people are waking up to the harms of prohibition and the fact that cannabis isn't as dangerous and alcohol and all these other drugs, but cannabis is still, you know, it's still a drug, it's still dangerous. And definitely, if you buy it on the illicit market, you never really know what you're getting. So I think that's just a word of caution to young people or anyone that is buying cannabis illegally. Is like, it can be adulterated with things that you definitely don't want to be consuming.
There's some people online that are like, oh, well, you know, this is why the medical market exists. I'm glad the medical market exists. Well, fine, but I thought you didn't want recreational patients. Like, there's a bit of irony sometimes in that argument of like, well, at least it's legal on the medical market. Well, no, it's legal on the medical market if you can find a doctor who will prescribe you.
And you have you have a condition and you've tried 2 other medications. Yeah. Like, there's still a lot of barriers to entry, and there's a lot of people that just want to, you know,
people just want to use cannabis. It's you know, we're not breaking the law by encouraging anybody to do illicit activity, but a lot of people that use cannabis find it an enjoyable, pleasant experience, and that's the overwhelming majority of reasons as to why someone does it. There are some doctors that will possibly prescribe without you having two medications, but it's difficult for them to openly promote that and talk about it in a world of stigma and
controlled drugs.
Somewhat of a challenge.
So that was a interesting and concerning
and
story.
today, only just came out today, didn't it? 9 hours ago.
Hot off the press.
Hot off the press. Next one, you see the next one. Less hot off the press. It's been a week.
Yeah, it's been a week, 10 days, and also just like it's been in discussions for about a million years as well.
A million years, The dinosaurs picked it off.
Is Germany finally legalizes cannabis. Finally, after lots of long years of policy discussions.
Germany flag,
finally legalized it, or rather kind of decriminalized it, really.
Quasi-legalization. I'm afraid it's quasi-legalization.
Yeah, somewhere in between. We've talked about this lots. It's definitely not a model that a lot of us have hoped for from, when it was initially going to be full commercial legalization, but it is nonetheless a really big moment for Europe, and definitely a moment for celebration around the normalization of cannabis and its users. So, really good and big moment for Europe. I know Alistair called it like a Berlin Wall moment.
Very topical.
So, yeah, definitely topical, and the pictures from Berlin were pretty cool on the night. And there's been some good coverage. I know that there was a really good piece from Ian Hamilton and Mark Monaghan.
I love those two. They take me back to my drug treatment. I first met them when I worked in drug treatment about 10 years ago. Lovely Ben.
Yeah, it was a really, really good piece, just basically spelling out the benefits of cannabis reform and dispelling a lot of the common myths. So, yeah, great piece. And the conversation does quite a lot of good pieces.
On really
cannabis.
good. Yeah, and both of those guys do really, really good work. Very sensible research and work on this subject.
Yeah.
So Alistair introduced me to a guy on the ground in Germany that we're going to start doing some content with, that we're having a bit of a back and forth with. He's obviously insanely busy right now, but we are going to be doing a show where we kind of discuss this, because I'm sceptical about the commercial opportunity in Germany, and I'm with Alfredo on this like quasi-legalisation. There's so much more to be done here. It's not North American legalisation. It's not as open access as I would like. It's a million times better than we've got here, and it's great news. I'm very excited about it, and I'm very, very happy, and I'm very positive, but I just think it's not quite as far as I would like it to go. But Alice has introduced me to a superb character on the ground who's doing loads of really exciting stuff, and has started to open my eyes to some of those commercial opportunities that exist. So we're going to be doing some content where we have a bit of a back and forth around that, and hear from someone on the ground in Germany setting some of those clubs up and stuff. So that's going to be great.
Yeah, keep your eyes peeled. And then I was just going to do a quick other shout out to a great piece from Steve Rolls in The Guardian as well. Good op-ed highlighting why cannabis reform is a vote winner and it's becoming normalised. And I liked his quote at the end of the piece saying that in the UK, cannabis is becoming a political asset rather than a political liability, but MPs and policymakers aren't kind of aware of that. It's all about that, that gap between the public perception and political perception.
I thought this was a great piece from Steve. Yeah, I thought it was a really, really good piece of journalism, really spot on. And I think I was having a conversation just yesterday actually with someone around what does Germany mean for the UK, and like how can European reform impact on the UK. And obviously we, as our role co-secretary to the APPG for Medical Cannabis, we speak to a lot of MPs and are very aware of MPs' reactions to cannabis, both medical and recreational. Germany is a great opportunity to take politicians under a new government, whoever it might be, probably Labour, take them and show them. Be like, look,
it's so
here,
close.
look,
it's like a 2-hour flight.
It's a 2-hour flight. Look how normal this is. Like, the world is not collapsing. It's fine. This has been done. I mean, again, it's maybe not the model I would want to see, but it's still, I don't think Germany's going to experience a great deal of turbulence because of the reforms of the past. Life will carry on. It's not going to be this huge, stressful thing. Yeah, no, it's much easier than flying them to the US or Canada. Yeah. So, and those models are most like, as much as I don't like, as much as I don't think Germany goes far enough, I think quasi-legalisation is the correct word. It's like diet legalisation. It's diet legalisation, yeah. It's a bit easier for MPs to come to terms with. You take them to, I mean, I've taken MPs to Canada and they didn't find that stressful, but you take them to the States. Colorado or California. It's going to be stressful. They're going to come out the shops. Like, what do you mean there isn't a limit on the amount of THC you can put in a drink? Yeah, these look like Haribo. Like, yeah, they do. Yeah. So no, it's great. Good work from Steve, from Ian, from Mark, and good work to Germany. Something we'll keep looking at and thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah, good, positive news.
All good points.
Now, next stuff maybe not so positive about the CBD industry. I feel like there's very few positive pieces of news that come out for the CBD industry.
The other week, we had like the most negative show ever. I think we were like, oh my God, every story was negative. At least we had a positive one.
It's a bit of a mix this time. Yeah. But yeah, I'm sure many of you have seen this. This came out a few weeks ago. A team of researchers from Bath Uni, Oxford Uni, and Alberta in Canada did an analysis of a bunch of different clinical trials, and 15 out of 16 found that CBD was no better than a placebo at alleviating pain. And yeah, the report found that there were differing levels of CBD in products compared to what had been advertised, with none present in some cases, with THC found in some cases. Yeah, I mean, overall, it really just demonstrates that the CBD industry needs to adhere to standards and some quality testing. And yeah, the study highlighted concerns around a lack of consumer protection, concerns around the fact that it's not regulated by medical bodies. Yeah, I mean, the CBD industry's faced a lot of hurdles over the last few years with it just not kind of going out to what it was made out to be. I would say that with this study, obviously it's on high street CBD brands and stuff, but that does make a big difference compared to, you know, when you look at medical grade CBD, the two things are very, very different. And I think for patients that are looking to use CBD for a medical condition and to actually alleviate pain and symptoms, they should look at going down the medical cannabis route, where perhaps they're not even prescribed THC, but they're just prescribed a high CBD oil or flower, because I think that's where you can see real benefit. Because I mean, I think efficacy of CBD, like proven efficacy, is around like 80 milligrams, and like most of these high street CBD things have like 10 to 15. So you're not like, even if it has the amount of CBD it says it does, and it's adhered to all the quality standards, you're unlikely to feel an actual benefit.
I feel like the CBD industry, I feel like it's sort of taken a bit of a hit recently. It's not quite
what everyone expected it to be made out to be.
Yeah, I don't know. I was saying to you earlier that, like, I find it interesting with CBD as well that the evidence and the efficacy suggests you need like quite significant dosage to feel an effect. And I'm aware that people use lower doses and do feel an effect. So fine, whatever. Like, who are we to kind of go, well, technically, you're not. Like, they're having an experience that they find positive. Who cares? Leave them alone. It's not hurting them.
Let them buy their CBD hummus.
Don't go around being like, well, actually, I think you'll find you had under the whatever. But I find it interesting that the drinks are very popular, and the drinks, like, there's no. The drinks have such a tiny amount. Like, some places like, we'll put a CBD shot in it. It's like, how much
like
is going in
CBD, coffee with a shot of CBD in it.
What was the tweet that Alistair did that went viral? The CBD hummus. Remember? Just stuff like that. Like, I think he did a tweet that was like, enough is enough. It was like CBD hummus. But, so the drinks I find interesting because, like, there's no way you're getting.
But I would argue. I mean, I buy like Trip and Goodrays. I'll buy a can of that in like.
We're not sponsored by either of those.
They're just in all the Sainsbury's and stuff. But like, I'll buy a can of a CBD drink in like a Sainsbury's with a meal deal, or just because like.
Do you feel better after? Is your pain gone?
No pain's gone, but it's just an enjoyable experience because, like, I think a lot of brands are waking up to the fact that people, if they don't want to be consuming alcohol, they want something that's a different flavor, something that's new and fresh, not necessarily like Coca-Cola or Sprite or Fanta. They want like a new, fresh thing that maybe doesn't have loads of calories, just feels quite natural. And like CBD drinks, for me at least, like tick that box, and it's just it quenches my thirst. It's got like a bit of a flavor and everything.
So it's still a good experience.
It's a good experience, but I'm not buying it because I'm like, oh, I really want that, like, those 20 milligrams of CBD today. It's just like, that peach and, ginger flavor sounds quite nice. So yeah, I think that like what this study doesn't take into consideration I think the study very much went down the route of like, there are people in chronic pain that are using these CBD products and it's not working for them. it's like, okay, well, that's not good. But there's a lot of people that just buy CBD products because they're like, oh, that sounds kind of nice. CBD is kind of trendy. And, you know, it's more about the fact that it, you know, has a nice flavor, or it smells, it's nice cream that smells nice. Yeah. And people are like, oh, I like that brand. So it's way more about the kind of consumer and like branding experience and brand loyalty than it is around, you know, it having a medical effect.
Yeah, for sure. Interesting to see how the CBD industry kind of does in the coming years in the UK, do you know what I mean? And see, because we've come across like a lot of confusion, haven't we, amongst the public around what CBD is and why it's legal. You know,
yeah, I mean, no wonder it is really confusing, because you see CBD and like, you know, it branded as kind of like a cannabis thing, because it is cannabis. Yeah. But and then like the mixed messages around medical cannabis being legal, and then people are like, oh yeah, you can get medical cannabis in Holland and Barrett. It's like, no, you can't.
Yeah.
And then it's like, then it doesn't work, and then they're like, oh, cannabis, you know, doesn't work.
And the other way, people are like, I had a friend recently, really tragically passed away, actually, way too young, like awful story. But she I think we're going to weirdly come on to this similar stories, but she, you know, she had very severe cancer, and was using CBD, and she was like, oh, I'm using this CBD, I get it from a guy, and I was like, that's not CBD, like, you're just using cannabis oil. But her perception was, oh, I'm getting this CBD from someone who gave it to me, but sometimes I take too much, I can't wake up. And I was like, no, mate, that's not just CBD, you're buying illicit cannabis oil from someone, and that's THC, and they were like, really? I thought it was legal. I was like, no, it's definitely not legal. Yeah. So there's a confusion, like, just on the illicit market, on the legal market, in the shop. It's a very confusing thing. And why, when we did that recommendation to government, I can't remember which department it was, when we did a recommendation to government, we were like, there needs to be a way, I think it was Home Office?
Yeah, Home Affairs.
Home Affairs, yeah, because we were like, there needs to be a clarification of what is legal and what isn't legal and what actually happened in 2018. Yeah. Let the public know. You go on the Talk to Frank website. It doesn't even tell you on the Talk to Frank website.
That it's it
should be like medical
that you can buy CBD legally. And,
there's no. So people go on and talk to Frank cannabis. Cannabis is a Class B drug, and you're like, what?
Yeah, and then people are thinking that CBD is like completely different to cannabis.
Yeah, there's so much confusion. It would help it would help the CBD market. It would help the medical cannabis market. It would help reduce criminalisation.
Yeah, I was going to say, it would maybe reduce the amount of people that are buying illegal cannabis oil too.
Which is why we put it in the recommendation. But anyway, hopefully the CBD industry picks up in the UK.
Yeah, and I mean, it was an interesting study. But hopefully it doesn't result in the CBD industry completely collapsing.
No, I don't think so. The good news is most people don't read a lot of things.
Yeah, it's behind a paywall.
Most people don't care, don't read it. That's the even thing. A study has come out saying this is crap. You're like, well, no one cares. The only people that are reading that are people in the industry.
Yeah, the only people that are reading it are people that have cannabis and Google alerts.
Most people at the time were like, yeah, but where's Kate Middleton? I don't, like, you know what I mean? It was like, that's what they care about. I don't care about things like that. So anyway, niche.
Anyways, just a quick story here is that 53 people have been approved to take medical cannabis in Ireland.
Wow, a whole 53.
Whole 53. Not loads to discuss here. I just thought it was worth highlighting that it's crazy how few people are actually currently benefiting from prescribed cannabis in Ireland. And hopefully that changes, because I know there's been a lot of talk around cannabis in Ireland from a decrim point of view, from a medical point of view, from a recreational legalization point of view. Just wild, because I know that they've introduced that compassionate access scheme, and you can get it prescribed in Ireland, and just very few people are benefiting from it.
53 people. Natalie, anyone who wants to learn a bit more about what's going on in Ireland, 100% follow Natalie. She's doing amazing stuff.
Yeah, she's doing amazing on the ground updates in Ireland, and just like generally around cannabis and harm reduction. She's got a TikTok and an Instagram, so definitely give her a follow.
And we did a show with her a few weeks ago, which you can find on Twitter and YouTube, where we talked about all these things.
Just a quick update from Ireland.
Keep going, Natalie. You're doing great.
So now we'll get on to that article on cannabis and cancer treatments. There was a bit of a damning article on this in The Guardian from a few days ago, written by an oncologist who I believe is a regular columnist in The Guardian, around why cannabis is not safe for cancer. It was based on a review study that came out recently. It was...
Can you imagine, you've got cancer, can you imagine caring about the side effects of cannabis?
Yeah, I was going to say, like,
you've got cancer.
Chemotherapy or radiotherapy.
So what's the risk of that? Death. Okay, I might use this cannabis. Careful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what's going to happen?
You might feel a bit dizzy.
Yeah. You've got this illness that literally could end your life, but don't take this thing that like has some mild side effects, but could like hate articles like this.
Yeah, and I'd also say that like I don't think there are many people that claim that cannabis can cure cancer, but many patients find that there are massive benefits to quality of life in alleviating sickness, in reducing pain, and just like making your life a little bit better while you're battling
They've got cancer. Leave them alone.
Yeah,
leave them alone. So, I mean, if you've got cancer and you're unwell, you can find something that helps you get through that experience. Do it. And one of the things that is proven cannabis help with is sickness after chemotherapy.
Yeah.
It's literally prescribed for it by doctors. So the fact that the Guardian commission this kind of nonsense really frustrates me.
Yeah,
like
especially because they're so good on cannabis reform.
Well, you've got Steve writing that piece for them, which is great.
Yeah, I think they came out within like a few days of each other.
Then you've got this. Should take cannabis. The answer is no. If the article was like, look, I'm a doctor and I just want to clear up that I have people that come to speak to me, and because I know this, we've read the article, like people come to speak to me and say, I'm going to take cannabis, it's going to cure my cancer and get rid of it.
Yeah, like
obviously there's an educational piece of doctor to be like, okay, listen, there are some interesting studies around the impact that cancer can have on tumours and growth alongside chemotherapy and outside of chemotherapy. And there are a couple of isolated, very unusual, interesting stories. However, the evidence suggests that cannabis won't get rid of your cancer. But it might make your life better. It might improve your life and your experience.
Yeah,
here is a legal medical market by which you can access it. Go and speak to a professional, not me. Well, she's obviously a professional. She's obviously she's a doctor. We've looked at other articles. But like, go and speak to a specialist.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just, I feel like it was unnecessarily negative.
Totally unnecessary. They've got cancer, leave them alone. Let them do what they want.
Let them have a bit of cannabis.
It just really annoys me, I think, because my friend passed so recently and like, she had breast cancer that spread through her body and it took her super quick. And her using cannabis helped her loads. It helped her get through the pain. It helped her get through the experience of what she was going through. It was a really positive experience for her. So I think, like, I see stuff like that and I just think, go away.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah, well, it's with any kind of chronic, potentially terminal illness. It's like, if there's something that could potentially help that patient, why not let them...
Be like, well, technically it's not going to cure your cancer.
Yeah, well, what's the worst that can happen? They're already, like, especially in stuff like palliative care, I'm like, well, they're already on their deathbed. Like, just let them...
Yeah, who cares?
Let them get a little bit of enjoyment and quality of life.
You let them take heroin. That's a stupid thing as well. Like, we prescribe people diamorphine and morphine, which can definitely kill you, and is physically addictive, and makes you super, super drowsy.
Like,
but cannabis, it's got these side effects. Are any of them death? No. Okay, go away. Stop prescribing me opiates. That is so stupid. Oh. Anyway, sorry.
Anyways, on to the next one.
Next one. This was the positive story,
London,
right?
Yeah, it is actually. London mayoral elections, they're coming up in like a month, and there was a piece in like a London publication around whether cannabis will be on the agenda. So two of the mayoral candidates, it's a really difficult word to say.
It's an annoying word, isn't it?
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like it should be. Lib Dem candidate Rob Blackie and Green Party candidate Zoe Garbett have both come out in support of some sort, not cannabis reform explicitly, but they've both said that they'd like to see fewer stop and searches and for cannabis to not be a priority for the Met Police. So that's really positive.
The Lib Dems should go further than that, but it is positive. I mean, we're talking about the only party...
They're so
funny. The Lib Dems are hilarious on cannabis, right? They've been like, let's legalise cannabis, should legalise cannabis. But now they're like, shh, don't say we said that.
Green Party are the same.
But we still believe it, but don't mention it. Like, what, guy, do you support this or not? Like, what is going on? And all their members are always like, yeah, we really care about this. But then the MPs are like, don't look at them. Like, what are you doing?
That's so funny.
Surely you support
Green
full legalisation.
So yeah, positive.
What about
Sadiq, he hasn't come out. He hasn't said anything yet. Also, I mean, what happened to the London Drugs Commission? What is going on with the London Drugs? There's a lot of noise about that. All of the pilots.
What about the Tory? Who have they announced the Tory mayoral candidate? I don't know if they actually have. I would want it so badly to be Andrew Boff, who I think he's absolutely superb.
Yeah,
he's great. He's so good.
Yeah, he'd be amazing.
Great policies, great ideas.
So yeah, that was all that was in that article. So hopefully cannabis will be on the agenda, and
surely it will come up. Surely it will come up.
Surely it will come up, especially with all of the stuff that Sadiq Khan did around the London Drugs Commission and the pilots like two years ago, over 2 years ago. So you'd think that it's something that they will talk about.
You'd think so. And just the amount of cannabis that's in that city is genuinely unbelievable. It's everywhere. You get cannabis within like 10 minutes.
Yeah,
of any place.
Smell it everywhere.
It's not exactly like, don't mention cannabis. It's everywhere in the city.
So hopefully we'll see some positive things around cannabis and
Hopefully.
the mayoral elections. So we'll keep an eye on it and probably update you in the next show. Next story, a bit less positive. But it's been a rocky road today, like kind of like positive, not positive. I've got Jersey, as in Jersey and the Channel Islands, cracking down on cannabis prescribing. So, as many of you know, Jersey's got a massive amount of cannabis patients. This is thanks to the fact that GPs can prescribe and initiate prescriptions, and also the illicit market is really expensive and difficult to access given Jersey's a tiny island. And there was an audit report done for the Jersey government or by the Jersey government, which revealed that prescription rates are 120% higher than they are in the UK. 6% of Jersey's working population has a prescription compared to 0.05% of the UK's population.
That's not hard though, is it? Like 120% higher than the UK. Well, the UK is hardly killing it.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, so I think maybe it means not necessarily that Jersey has like a massive amount of patients, but
then
maybe,
it's obviously tiny.
Yeah, it's also,
like,
exactly.
Tiny
but maybe it's, the fact that the UK has like 30,000 patients and, there's like 68 million of us. So maybe there should be some more in the UK.
I think so.
So I thought that comparison's like a little bit silly and pointless. But yeah, the government is cracking down on this and they're a bit concerned about the high numbers of patients. And I think really what this all just comes down to, like we say with most of these stories, is stigma and a persistent fear around cannabis and its effects. Because in reality, I think there's a really good point to be made that 6% of Jersey's population that's consuming cannabis, medically prescribed by a doctor, are probably consuming less alcohol, smoking fewer cigarettes. There's all these quality of life markers that they're probably benefiting from way more than people that aren't prescribed it.
That should be the metric for me. Are they causing any trouble?
Yeah, like is there...
Oh no, we've got all these people using cannabis. Okay, any problems?
Like, is everything fine?
Then carry on. We've got other things to think about. You know what I mean? Like, it's the politicisation of the issue sometimes, doesn't it? Where they're like, my God, this thing's happening. Yeah, but is it a problem?
Yeah, but like, is anything else happening?
Are they happy? No, they're quite happy. Yeah, they can get cannabis on a legal market. Okay, fine. What's next? I mean,
yeah, exactly. But yeah, the one thing I would highlight from this story is that the audit revealed. I'm not sure if it confirmed, I think it revealed and confirmed that some patients are receiving multiple prescriptions from multiple clinics, which
that's
obviously not ideal.
That's not great.
But I would also say that just highlights the issue of the private clinics not communicating with each other. And you know how like the number of patients in the UK is like the best kept secret because like clinics like, well, I'm not going to tell you how many patients I have.
But we're doing well. It's gone up. Okay.
So who's coming up with these numbers? So I think that information should be a little bit more publicly available and there should be some sort of, complying with GDPR and everything, there should be some sort of, metric for just understanding how many patients there are.
Yeah, agree.
So, so that's
I feel like that'd be one of those things that's like mentioned politically, there's a bit of stress and then it just disappears and goes on. And, it might be one of them things
it's also just interesting because like Jersey's like really keen on, making the island of Jersey like a hub for, medical cannabis and making it a massive market. So it's like, why do you have such an issue with like there being patients?
What's wrong? Is this what you want?
So well, I guess we'll see whether it turns into anything, but I just thought that was, interesting. And lastly, we've got some Glass Farms got some PR and coverage in, I think it was some US outlets like CNBC. I think there's like a press release that went around their carbon not only carbon neutral, but carbon negative way of growing cannabis. So this was, really good to see. Obviously, sustainability and like ESG is a really important thing to see in the cannabis sector, particularly with all of the ways that cannabis can be grown in a non-environmentally friendly way. So that's really positive. I guess the main thing to consider here is around like what the end offer will be to patients and what that cost and offer will look like.
It's really important, isn't it, that the cannabis industry is sustainable, and I think that's a very noble, good, positive thing for a company to be focused on, and I think it's a really unique and interesting offer. The challenge is always going to be, as much as there's, that is a good, positive thing, the challenge is going to be what's the end product for patients, and how, from a cost perspective, does that compare to companies that aren't as virtuous and just think, we're just making this as...
Or how it compares to the illicit market, which definitely does not care about
they're not like, listen,
sustainability.
they're like, we really should grow our cannabis more sustainably. They're like, just keep it hidden. That's what we care about. So, I think we're aligned there that that's a really good, positive thing. It's very unique, and it's definitely a future-focused way of growing the product. The challenge is always going to be what that end product looks like for the patients, which we're interested to see how that goes.
Yeah,
but good stuff.
Good stuff. I think any story that highlights, innovation and sustainability and good stuff being done in the cannabis industry is 100%. good to see.
Yeah,
and
100%.
Yeah, I believe that's all that we have for you guys today.
That's the news. A mixed bag there of good and negative, positive and negative.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it wouldn't be an industry show without, a couple of negative stories.
We've got to say it how it is, Kash, haven't we? That's our vibe. We're not just going to go, everything's amazing, and we're going to tell you how it is.
The cannabis industry is booming.
Yeah, everyone's super happy right now. Everybody's going great. We're just going to say it how it is, because that's the value that we want to bring, isn't it, mate? Just being honest and open.
Honest and blunt.
Say what we see. We've got lots more VaultFast content coming out. You are literally about to record a patient show with Kieran, so we've got a patient podcast that'll be coming out probably...
in the next week.
After this, in the next week.
And we'll have another industry show for you guys in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, when I'm back from Rome. Cool, thanks, mate. See you all soon. Thanks for watching. Cheers. Like and subscribe and say nice things, please. Thank you. Bye.